Oop, sorry. Hey, friends, welcome back to the Basswood Carving Chatter. And I got a special guest on today. He's one of my favorites, and I told him earlier that I was a fanboy. And we're today we're with cousin Jack of Cousin Jack Carves, and I know a lot of you guys that watch my channel have commented a lot on Jack, and so I thought it'd be good to have him in today and talk to him a little bit about carving, how he got started carving, who his favorite carvers are, and that kind of stuff. So, Jack, introduce yourself and
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yep, that's me, Jack. Jack Loring, and coming to you from Central Florida. I grew up here.
Oh man.
Been here since I was 5 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, it's
One of my
changed a lot.
favorite places. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it snowing down there? Yeah.
it's cold
Are
today.
you at where Central? Did you say? Are you Central
Yeah,
Florida?
I'm in the Tampa Bay area.
Tampa Bay? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought I seen the weather said you guys were going to get a little snow or
Well,
freezing temperatures anyway.
nah, it's yeah, it got down pretty cool overnight, but the sun
Yeah.
is out. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we just got some snow here, and my truck broke down on me last night right in the middle
Ooh.
of the highway. Just
Oh,
died. I guess it's my alternator. So I was battling that till like 11 o'clock last night, trying to get a tow truck and all that stuff. Yeah, it wasn't much fun. So so what do you what how'd you get started carving?
yeah. So I was working at a wilderness camp. I worked for Jack Eckert, and they had these wilderness camps all over the eastern U.S. and they were therapeutic camps for emotionally troubled kids.
Oh, okay.
So I worked with a group of boys. They were, I'd say between 11 and 18 years old. And most of these kids had come from dysfunctional families. They had done some things, and they some of them had arrest records and what have you. And I got
Yeah.
there, and I'm with them, and I'm saying, we give these kids pocket knives and axes, and but what I found out was they were good kids who'd done some bad things.
Yeah.
And so I was there to work with them as a coach and a mentor, and uh, we lived out there in the woods in these shelters that we built out of pine trees, and we had
Oh,
no electricity. And
cool.
so what happens is reality therapy. Kids start to realize living in a group that their behavior impacts everyone in the group.
Yeah.
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 And so to spend the time, some kids learn to play guitar, and a lot of them started carving. And that's where I learned. I learned from them. I started in 1987.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So did you just find sticks out in the woods and start carving little things out of them?
Yeah, mostly cedar. There was
Cedar?
there was plenty of cedar laying around, and
Yeah.
and that's what we used almost all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Um, so did most of the kids start to be like really impress you with what they could carve
Oh
and
man. Some of
their
those kids,
imaginations, or did you have like a project that you just all tried to carve or
they carved whatever they felt like, and a lot of them would carve like a ball in a cage or something like that, or
yeah.
different types of figures, and um, it was amazing. Yeah, some of those kids were very talented, and what they were carving with was just the Zacto blades,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zacto sets, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it was a learning experience for me, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So then you took it on to just a hobby that you enjoyed and
Yeah, I kept going, and then I got my first real carving knife, and managed to cut myself bad enough to go to the hospital, but
oh, wow. One way to learn, huh? The
oh
hard
yeah,
way.
yeah. But eventually I got my dad into carving too.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Wow. That's cool. My dad was a woodworker. Um, and my grandpa was the big carver. The whittler. He was a whittler. Back then it wasn't carving, it was just whittling, and
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. We would be fishing all the time, and because my family, we love to fish, and he'd
Oh,
always pick up a pocket knife and out of his pocket and sit there and carve something, and
yeah.
little
Fish and
sheep for a
whittle.
little
Yeah.
bear. Yep, yep. And yeah, I actually had his first one of his pocket knives was my first knife. So yeah, I can relate to that stuff. But so you're in Florida,
Hmm.
and what what inspired you to move on to YouTube and get into making videos and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ron. For the longest time I was just doing my own thing.
Yeah,
And then I started just checking out social media, and I found some other carvers online, right? And I'd never been to a carving club or with a group other than those boys, who taught me.
yeah,
But that was a long time ago. And
yeah,
so when I found it, my world expanded a lot, right?
yeah,
And since then, I've met carvers from all over the world. It's pretty amazing.
yeah,
So one of the people I came across online was a site from Dennis Stallings,
yep, yep.
and I was watching his videos and stuff, and then I uh, I saw on Facebook, he was one of the people who suggested to me to be a friend, and so I reached out.
Hmm.
And then later I discovered that he had passed away.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think he passed while he was fishing, so he was
yeah,
doing something that he loved. But um, that inspired me because
yeah,
Dennis and his videos are still there. He's got a
yeah.
legacy, that he's been able to share with other people, even though he's not here anymore. And I
Absolutely.
thought, hey, that's
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I'd like
yeah.
to do something that would be around after I'm gone.
Right. Yeah, and he was one of my big influencers too, and I was watching his videos all the time, and then I heard he passed away, and I was like, oh man, that's tough. That was tough
Hmm.
because it's just like every carver. Everybody has their own little style, and the
Oh
and
yeah,
the things that they do and the things they like to carve, and his little faces and things that he used to do. I just enjoyed his style of carving. Rest in peace, my friend.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah, I never got to meet him, but yeah, that's what it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
so and it's kind of fun because you can look back on your carving and see how much you've improved. I mean, my channel started out as more of a way of just you know um recording my journey as a beginning carver and focusing on things that as a beginning carver there wasn't a lot of videos out there for like beginning carvers. You would see guys like Roger and Dennis and all that, and they would just carve these things. But I was like, well, I'd like to start recording my journey doing simple stuff that other beginners can pick up a knife and
yeah.
follow along with. And like we were talking off camera, Gene was one of those. The flat plane carving was just
Hmm.
something that really interested me, because it wasn't like, you had to take a piece of sandpaper and sand it all down and smooth and
Yeah,
make it look beautiful because the flat plane was beautiful in its own way. It was
it's
the
amazing.
art
Yeah,
form.
it
So
is. Yeah.
and I like I said earlier, I watch all your videos, and I'm always anxiously awaiting the next video.
Well, I have about 6 or 7 in my head right now that
Yeah.
I just need to get to. Yeah.
Yeah, that brings up another question is how do you come up with your ideas for your are you an artist? Do you draw them out? Do you
I you know I yeah, have to visualize it first. Yeah.
Mhm.
So and my wife Sunny, she brought me this wood carver's journal book, right? And it's got this graph paper inside of it. So I start with just a conceptual drawing of what I'm thinking about. And
Mhm.
then sometimes from there, the next step that I'll do is I'll pick up a piece of this high density urethane foam and just try and carve it out into the foam.
Oh,
And
okay.
sometimes I find out what I have planned needs to be altered a little bit just by doing that.
Okay.
It's a good way
That's
for me
that's
to,
interesting.
yeah, to get a 3D model.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know some carvers will sculpt them, with
Yeah.
clay and things like that, to get an idea of what they want to do and stuff. Do you ever just sit down and just carve something without just out of your head, just like I'm going to turn this into a gnome or
Yeah.
turn this into
Especially with, with a piece of wood that you find, right? The found wood, because the
yeah,
grain runs in different directions and the shape of the wood itself,
right.
that's where you hear these carvers talking about let the wood tell you what it wants to be. Well, that's really a reference to listen to the grain
Mm-hmm.
and look at the piece before you start. What's it shape like? What's it look like?
Yeah,
And that's different than when you're working with this nice clean piece of block, of basswood.
yeah, yeah. It makes you appreciate the wood too. I think is because was I was going to do some spoon carving videos, and I grabbed a piece of. I had a friend that works in wood in tree work, and I said, grab me some walnut and some cherry, and when you're out doing a job, and he come with like 4 or 5 pieces of each, and man, I'll tell you, that walnut was hard. That cherry was hard. I was like, man, this makes me
Yeah.
appreciate, trying to carve basswood for sure.
Yes.
But
Yeah. There's some soft woods, and then you have those that are really difficult to work, but they hold detail real well. I messed around with some oak, and that's no fun.
yeah, yeah, that's probably about the worst one to try to carve too.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
that's because I was looking into with the spoons and stuff, I wanted to if I did carve something good, I wanted it to be usable, because my wife likes all the wooden she's got a big old collection of wooden spoons and stuff like that. So I was
Mhm.
like, well, I did some research and they said oak wasn't a very good, source for actually using, utensils. So I was like, well, I'll go with walnut or cherry because they say a nut wood is probably the best to
Okay.
use for,
Yeah.
those type of things. And so I was like, well, I'll go with walnut or cherry. And I had never carved a solid wood before, like that, like hardwood anyway. I've done some pine and some basswood, but a little poplar.
Mhm.
But man, that walnut was tough, tough.
Gonna last a long time, though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then when you put the finish on it, because you use a
Oh,
like a
yeah.
oil base or not like a vegetable oil or I used coconut oil, and
Mhm.
man, it really brought it out. I was like, wow, this is beautiful wood.
Yeah.
But um, so, what would you say? What's your most? What do you like to carve the most as far as the things you do?
Oh, yeah. So I like to carve different stuff. That's the thing with me. I try not to stick with one thing for too long, but I wind up doing a lot of little angels and little gnomes because people want them
Yeah,
as a gift. But
yeah,
for me, yeah, I like to mix it up and carve different stuff. So um, and that's the thing. One time, once I post a picture, people say, "Well, hey, yeah,
yeah,
you gonna do a video?" Or, "Hey, do you have a pattern?"
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
"No, I just carved it. That's all."
yeah. Yeah, that's what when I was talking to Ken last week, I said probably the biggest question I get is, "Do you have a pattern for that?" You know,
Hmm.
and like we were talking, sometimes like when I do a video, I know what I want to do, but I'll just sit down and carve it without carving any before I do the video.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, the first thing people ask is, "Do you have a pattern for that?" And it's
I've used my community tab on the
yeah,
channel to post some of the drawings that I've done, and I wouldn't
right,
necessarily call them a pattern, but from the drawings, you can usually see that graph paper grid, so you can kind of get an idea about scale.
yeah.
And if I have it, I don't mind sharing it.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
have a channel, right?
right, exactly. Um, so you got a pretty good channel going. You're almost up to 3,000 subscribers. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah,
it's been amazing. I've been really surprised. it's um, it's gratifying, and it's humbling at the same time. But like I
Yeah.
said, it's opened up the world. I've met so many great people from all
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's the same way with me. I when I started out, I was like, oh, I got 100 subscribers, and then I was like, oh, I got 200 subscribers. And then it seems like YouTube, once you start getting views and people start subscribing to you, then YouTube puts you out there a little more and a little more. And then before you know it, I was up to 1,000, and I was like, oh wow. I told my wife, I said, yeah, I'm about to hit 1,000 subscribers. And she was like, what? You almost got 1,000 subscribers? And I said, yeah. I said, that's crazy. And just like you said, I get because I put my email address up there because I know sometimes people like to talk to you or comment to you and stuff, and they send me pictures of the carvings they've done and off
Hmm.
of my videos and stuff, like, hey, here's what it looks like, and it don't look as good as yours, but and I'm like, hey, it looks great to me, if you're just sitting down carving and
Yeah.
doing it, and it's kind of it, it's kind of exciting to get a carving picture from somebody that sat down
Yeah.
and took the time to go through your videos, and carve something.
I save every one of them. I
Y-
save every one of those pictures, and people comment. I write back to every single person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, same way. And I think that's important because it helps create that community of people that are, you know, taking their time out of their day to watch you, and it's kind of humbling, but it's also exciting to see that people enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
It makes you want to do another one. I got really sick right after Christmas, and I was planning on doing a couple more. I did, 4 or 5 little ornaments for Christmas and stuff throughout the month of December. And on Christmas Eve, I came home and just got really, really sick. I don't know if it was the COVID or the flu or what,
Mm,
but I was sick for like, well, almost 3 weeks total. I
wow.
just got over it like about a week ago and stuff. And I almost felt like I was letting my people down, you know what I mean? Because, oh wow, it's almost been a month. I haven't
Where
put
you
a
been?
video up, And yeah, I actually got that, like, hey, you gonna have a video soon, or you okay? We haven't heard from you.
Now,
So
Ron,
what
I've seen a number of your videos, and I've heard you talking about the fishing lures. Do you have a video about the fishing lures?
I do.
Okay.
And I also have a channel. It's called Krusty Cranks.
Is there a different YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's a different YouTube
Oh, okay.
channel, and I haven't put any wood carved lures up there yet. I have one on my channel that I did. It was just a little flat uh, sided lure, um, and it was kind of something that my wife uh, asked me to, one about 3 years. Well, actually, when I started carving, she was like, "What do you want for your birthday besides carving stuff? You already got a ton of knives and all that,
Never
and
too many, though.
gouges." Yeah. And I was like, well, I'd kind of like to, because I said this in every carving chatter video podcast, but I suck at painting. For me, the painting is the part that I'm trying to learn to be good at. I look at some of these guys' paintings on their wood carvings, and it's that stained look. It's
Mhm.
beautiful, and I struggle with that. And I thought, well, maybe if I get an airbrush, I can learn how to airbrush my wood carvings. It'd be something a little different than what everybody else is doing, but yet at the same time, you know, well, I found out airbrushing wood carvings is not an easy thing to do. It's
Oh,
it's just it doesn't turn out right, because you can't, or at least I'm not that good at doing it yet. Um, so I thought, well, I got to learn how to do something with this airbrush, and I started watching these guys painting fishing lures on YouTube. And I thought, well, that looks pretty easy. So I started painting lures, and um, some of my friends, I posted a few on Facebook and stuff. My friends were like, "Oh, can I buy one of your lures?" And I was like, "Well, I don't. I'm not really. I'm just. This is just a hobby. I don't really feel like I'm, that good to start selling fishing lures. So then I was like, well, I'm painting them, so I might as well do a YouTube channel on my journey learning how to paint lures. And then I started getting people like, "Oh, I want to buy one of those lures." And I threw up a little Facebook store. and I started selling lures, and it's crazy because I get 3 or 4 orders a day
Wow.
on people buying my fishing lures, and it's like, wow,
Huh.
this this turned into something that is now a business that was just a hobby, you know. Um, so yeah, it's called Krusty Cranks. And my family, we came up with the name. We started throwing words around like, what can we call it, and my son came up with Krusty, and I was like, well, that's kind of neat. That's kind of,
Yeah.
that sounds cool. And then we had an illustrator do us a logo and all that stuff, and it
Nice.
just turned into something. But it's a lot of
So
fun.
are
And the
you
bait
using
painting,
are you
I'm
using
sorry,
basswood to make the lures?
I'm using basswood and balsa.
Okay, so they're mostly top water?
Um, well, I got a lead pot,
Okay.
so I'll like drill holes and I'll put
Yeah.
lead in them, and then I'll test them in my stationary tub to see what buoyancy I want from them. If they're, because I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting into like putting the bills on them, and
Okay.
playing around with I'm I'm playing around really right now with it. But the lures I paint on YouTube are all I just buy blanks. Like you can buy clear blanks, the unpainted blanks.
Okay.
So I'm doing those to get my painting skills. And I've carved some lures, um, but I haven't really done the videos on them because I'll start carving them and I'll get them done. And I was like, wow, I should have recorded that, you know. Plus, there's a lot. You would be surprised how much there is into just making a lure and making it,
Oh, yeah.
swim right.
You got it. Yeah,
Um,
you have to have it balanced, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You fish?
I like fishing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
grew up fishing. Yep.
yeah. I know it's so enjoyable. And I have a 1 acre lake out in the back of my behind my house.
Oh, I'm jealous.
And actually, I have 2 lakes. I have one that's a bait pond. It's a small one down at the bottom of the hill. It was basically just a runoff from my neighbor, where all of his water ran off. So I dug a pond down there to catch it, and I started putting bait in there, and it's loaded with like little bluegills and
Those are fun to
goldfish
catch.
and things like that.
Yeah.
But in my big pond, I got like some big catfish and bass, crappie, bluegills, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're a fishing family. We got a big old pontoon. We're like 10 minutes from a large body of water, up state park. So, and
Yeah.
we grew up on the water. My grandpa had a boat, and we fished all the time. And I love coming down there fishing.
Yeah,
I
well,
love fishing that Gulf Coast.
we have a lot of different species here,
You
that's for
do.
sure. Yeah.
And some monster bass.
There's some big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I
Yeah, it
I grew
is.
up we used to catch a lot of catfish growing up. We go to the store and buy a cheapo pack of hot dogs,
Yep.
leave it sit out in the sun for a while until it
Yep.
got good and stinky.
Yep.
Just take a piece of hot dog, put it on the hook, and
Yep.
catch all kinds of catfish there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got some big ones up here on the Ohio River.
Oh, I
And
bet, yeah.
the biggest one we caught was 60 something pounds. It was like
Whoa.
62 pounds. Me and my brother fought it for 25 minutes on a boat and
Wow.
finally got it in. We thought we were going to lose it. We seen it. It surfaced 3 or 4 times by the boat, and then it would take off back down. And
Yeah.
we're like, oh, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. And we finally got it in. It was 62
Wow.
pounder. It was the biggest one we ever. That's our personal best. But, and I got into bass fishing, and um, it's just making the lures and stuff. It's kind of neat to go out, especially go out because I kind of call it my test pond now, because I can paint a lure and go out and see if I can catch a fish with it.
Yep.
And I say I'm going to start recording catching the fish with my lures, so people can say,
Yeah.
oh, wow, his lures do work. He's got a fish.
That'd be
But
pretty cool, yeah.
it's a lot of fun. And like I said, it was a hobby, like wood carving. And then I thought, well, I could put the two together. I can actually carve my baits and then paint them, because there's actually guys on YouTube that do that. There's a few different guys I watch on YouTube that actually, will make them, from broomstick handles
Hmm.
and all kinds of stuff. And,
Oh,
but yeah, so. Well, who would you say is one of your big influences as far as carving outside of Dennis? As
Yeah,
we were
well,
talking a
there's
little earlier.
Gene Messer, of course. Gene has given me a lot of encouragement. He's one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. He
He
really
is.
is.
He is.
Yeah, and Lynn Doty. Lynn, his videos are just amazing. Blows me
Another one of
away.
my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
I like the cowboys. I like the caricature cowboys and things like
yeah.
that. That's kind of what, I would say my favorite things to do is, and I like to just sit down and just take my time and just carve a little bit on them and set them back up and pick them up again.
Well, now Lynn, he carves like his house is on
Oh
fire,
my
or he's
gosh,
late for supper or something
he
because he's just
does.
he's he's just going to town.
Yeah, and he whips out that Stanley, carves it
Yeah.
with that Stanley knife, and it's like, man. But yeah, he was one of my big influences too. I really got into watching it, and I actually started to carve the horse that he does
Oh yeah.
on there, the caricature horse, because I wanted to put it with one of my cowboys and make kind of like a sheriff and his horse. And I did a live video one night, and I had started to carve on it, and people was like, "Oh, you're gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, I got two nasty emails from two, I guess, of Lynn's favorite or Lynn's fans." And they
Hmm.
said, "You can't carve that on YouTube. That's his carving. You're stealing his ideas and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't want to upset anybody." So I abandoned that idea of carving his horse on there. And I was going to make it different. I was going to put a
Right.
different type of saddle and different types of things on it. I was going to make it different. But it was the only cool pattern I could find of a caricature horse. And if you go on Pinterest, there's a bunch of people that have
Hmm.
carved that horse.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way he pinned it together in two pieces, so you could work on the legs and everything. I just like the whole concept of it. And like I said, I did it on a live one night. I was just something I wanted to carve on while I was on live. And two different guys emailed me, said, "You can't do that. That's Lynn's. You're stealing his idea." And I imagine if I would have contacted Lynn, he probably would have been fine with it.
Most of the
But I
way,
was
yeah.
like, I didn't want to upset anybody, and I just abandoned the idea.
I found that most carvers are, they're pretty tickled when you do something that they've done, as long as you credit them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I did.
It's
I
the
was,
people that don't credit them
yeah,
that will get them upset for sure, and
yeah,
I've seen that happen. But when
yeah.
you credit somebody and yeah,
I
most
mean,
carvers are not going to have a problem with that.
yeah. And like you said, I mean, it was flattering to me when people carved the things and that's why I put them up there, was
Hmm.
so that other people could carve the things that I've done, and it's like, and it wasn't like I would take one of Tom Shipley's and and post his pattern all over the whip. I
Right.
would say, go buy the book. You got to buy this book or one of the other books, because I got a ton of books around. I'm sure you do too.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm not putting Lynn's pattern out there. He put it out
He
there. It's
did.
on Pinterest. Here's the pattern. You can get it for free, but some people just get upset with some of the things, and it's like, I didn't want to cause a rift. And like I said, had I contacted Lynn, he probably would have been fine with it, and he probably
Hmm.
would have been flattered with it. Like I said, most people that carve are. I mean,
Yeah.
but but so thought I seen in a couple videos you have your grandkids. Is that you
Two
carve
boys.
two
Yeah, two
boys?
boys. There's Freddie, he's 5, and Ruben, he's about 18 months old. But
Okay,
he's not
okay,
ready yet. Yeah, but,
yeah, yeah,
Freddie, he likes fishing. I took him fishing with a cane pole,
yep,
just catching little bluegills and stuff, but
yep.
we need to go again. I wanna take him fishing so when I retire, he'll take me fishing, you know?
There you go. Yep, yep, yep. So with Carbon, do you guys have carbon clubs down there around Florida in your
Yeah,
area?
there's several, and I know here in my county there's a carving club, but I think they meet once a month on like Tuesdays at 11 o'clock, and that's like the middle of my work day. So I've never
Oh, I got
been. Yeah, I've never
yeah,
had the opportunity to go.
yeah.
Uh, I went to a virtual meeting once, and that was because the North Carolina Wood Carvers Association, Norm Burtness had reached out to me, and he asked me to do a presentation for them on their virtual meeting because of COVID. They were doing all virtual, and so
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. I met some great guys from North Carolina and learned from them
yeah,
during that time that I had with them. Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna try to go to that wood carvers roundup down there that they do in Tennessee.
Hmm.
That seems to be like seems like it'd be fun to go down to that. Have you ever seen anything about that?
Yeah, I've
Y-
seen the posts online, and I think Steve Brown, who's from
Yeah,
North Florida, I think he kind of coordinates
yeah,
and
yeah,
organizes that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I always been wanting to do that. That seems like a fun. I just enjoy getting around. Like when I go to my carving club, it's like the people are like, "Well, what do you guys do there?" I said, "Talk." Shoot the bull, but occasionally one of them will do like a seminar on, bark, carving cottonwood bark, or um, my teacher, I have an instructor, he does classes, and he does the little shelf elves,
Oh
the
yeah.
little, they sit on the shelf and stuff. And man,
Yeah.
he does some beautiful ones. I'm trying to get him to come on and do one online with me, because it's amazing how many different little faces he can put on those things. And it's just like, I put a video up. It was actually my first video I ever did on the shelf elf seminar that I went to.
I think I saw
And
that one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and he just does so many. I put pictures up and a little video of some of the ones that he's done, but been to his house and he's got shelves lined with those things. It's like, man,
Wow.
how many faces and stuff have you done with these? And he's like, a lot. And I said, well, I got to get you to come on my carving channel and do a video on one. And he's like, I'd love to. I'd love to.
Oh, good.
So we're gonna get him on here and get him in there. He's not too tech savvy, so he was like, you'll have to show me how. I said, well, just come on up to my studio and we'll just do it right here at the house. So, but yeah, we're gonna try to get him on there this year. Do a couple of those.
Yeah. I think some folks don't understand how the complexities of YouTube and recording and editing and just
Yeah,
making sure you get a decent video at the end. It's
yeah,
not as easy as it looks.
yeah. And that everybody I've done the podcast with so far has had said the same thing. It's like, when we carve, we don't carve with a camera sitting in front of us or
Mm-mm.
on top of our shoulder or over our head or facing the wrong view and stuff like that. It's like that for me, that was the biggest challenge, was being able to carve with a camera in front of me. Because my first few videos, I did different angles, and people were like, we can't see what you're doing, or your hands in the way, or it's something like that. And that was probably the biggest challenge, was to try to get a good view that everybody
Mhm.
can see. So I come up with a little tripod deal that I can extend out in front of me. It's actually a microphone boom arm,
Oh, yeah.
like an extension thing. It's flexible. And I ended up putting a GoPro mount on that thing, and it works pretty good. It puts it right in front of me, and I can get a good video. And it's just like so hard to reach out, 1.5 foot away from you and carve something when I'm used to holding it up against my body or right up
Right.
under my eyes, 'cause I don't have the best eyesight in the world. And
Yeah. It's a
it's just like
challenge,
it's
and,
a
I'm
challenge.
lucky because Sunny shoots everything, and then she edits it, and I just
Wow.
sit and carve,
I
right?
need
So
me a Sonny.
yeah. So, uh, props to Sunny, but,
Yeah,
yeah,
props to
I'm
Sonny for
lucky
sure.
this yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Sonny. She does good. Your videos are good, really good videos.
Yeah, she keeps me grounded.
I I
She
bet.
I'll hand a carving to her, and she'll look at it and say, "Well, what is that?" I think, "Oh, boy, that's not a good sign."
Yeah, and then when it does turn out they want it, I gotta have that. Everything I
Uh,
carve, my wife's like, "Oh, I want that. I want one of those. I want that." It's like, I'll have to carve you another one because this one's going on my shelf. But she don't stand for that. They always want to steal your carvings. But so what? You got some videos coming up, you say?
yeah, I've I sat down the other day and wrote down 6 or 7 of them that I really do want to get to, and I think the next one I'm going to do, maybe this weekend, is cover some of these flat plane carvings I picked up. I found these 3 carvings and picked them up for $20 a piece. One of them is a trig, and then Gene told me one of them's from a guy named Gunnarsson, and these are amazing flat plane carvings. This is I'll show you this one here, Ron. This is a trig carving, and there we go.
Oh, okay.
You can see
Wow.
that, and
Wow.
it's pretty old, but it does have a signature on it. So this is CO trig, and the trig family. There was a whole mess of them from Sweden. They carved all these things years and years ago, and that CO trig is Carl Olaf trig, is what I learned.
Okay.
And like I said, Gene told me about this other one I have here that was from a Gunnarsson. I did some research on that, and there was a whole mess of Gunnarssons too. They had these whole families that did these carvings, and
Wow.
what's amazing about them, and you had mentioned earlier, is the flat plane style, the simplicity and the complexity of it all
Yeah.
together. Just yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it amazes me too. It's like Gene will make 4 or 5 cuts and he's got a face.
Yep.
And it's like it's definitely challenging to do. You would think it's just easy to carve like that,
Mhm.
but it's not. You have to make the right cuts,
Yeah. Yeah.
and few cuts, and
Yep.
it's really cool. But I'm a big fan of it. I haven't been real successful at it as far as like, I mean, getting less cuts to make the
It's
finished piece.
it's yeah. I haven't done a lot of it, but it's like anything else, right? It's gonna take some practice for sure, because
Yeah.
I'll find myself starting to round stuff off like I would normally round.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah. That's
crap!
what I mean.
I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to round it off.
I know. For me, it's like my carving, it don't look right, So I'm like, oh, I gotta make another cut here and that. But it's when you watch somebody like Gene that just cut here, cut here, cut here, and before you know it, he's holding a finished little piece, and it's like, man,
Yeah,
that is cool. How do you do that? I
I
sat here and
got a
watched him, and he,
little Valentine gnome. I'm probably going to do a video real soon because Valentine's Day is going to be here before we know it. And then one of the other things, project I'm working on, is to take an old vintage straight razor and make a carving knife out of it.
oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. We'll see how it goes. I've never done it before, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Now,
not going to stop me.
yeah. Do you have a shop where you do your carving or
Not really.
workshop?
Most of the carving is in the recliner.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I'll do stuff in the garage when I want to
yeah,
work with metal and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I mean, that's another thing with like me. I sit in my recliner, and carve comfortably. But when you're doing the videos and stuff, it's like I just don't feel comfortable because have a camera in front of me, or I'm bumping it, or seems like I'm right on top of the camera, so the volume's louder than it should be, and you can hear me breathing sometimes. It's like it's just a challenge, but um, yeah. So, is there anything you'd like to tell beginners about carving and
Oh,
about maybe starting their own YouTube channel or anything like that?
yeah. I encourage beginners to learn how to sharpen your tools, because
Yeah,
if you don't, you're going to get frustrated really soon.
yeah,
Yeah, even that factory edge may not be as good as what you could do yourself, but
right.
that factory edge is going to wear off, and then you're gonna you're gonna need to know how to sharpen these tools.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole lot more joy when you carve them with sharp tools. Makes a
Mhm.
world of difference. It really
Yeah.
does. And then for beginners, I would say, a lot of them will start with whatever wood they find.
Mhm.
Just pick it up and carve on it, and
Mhm.
that can be a challenge. Sometimes you
Yeah.
wind up with something that's really difficult to carve, or you get some wood that's got some dry rot or wormholes or other things going on there.
Yeah.
So I would encourage them to get the best tools that they can afford and learn how to sharpen, and then with the wood, stick to softer woods at least at the beginning, right?
Mhm.
The
Yep. Yeah.
the cedar and the pine,
Mhm.
basswood. I've carved on Christmas tree wood. It makes pretty good carving.
Yeah.
Most of them. And then I encourage them to be safe. I've seen too many beginners posting pictures of cuts and bandages and stitches, and
Mhm.
it's I've been there and I did it
Yeah.
plenty of times. So it's not cheap to go to the emergency room and have to get
Yeah.
yourself stitched up.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Sometimes it's like, and it's always for me, it's always like where you don't think about it and that chip breaks off.
That's
You know,
it.
you're right there and that chip breaks off and bam, you nailed yourself, and
Yeah.
um
And then the other thing is patience. You
patience.
got to have relentless patience as a
Mhm.
beginner. You're going to watch these videos, you're going to see people doing things. You say, oh, that looks pretty simple.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of beginners miss is the action on the blade. What I mean is they'll see somebody carving, and Lynn Doty is a good example, right? You
Mhm.
watch him and you think, oh, okay, you just take the knife and you push it forward. They don't see that he's also pushing, not only pushing in one direction, he's slicing as he goes.
Right.
But unless you're watching that and you're catching it as a beginner, you're not going to see that it's really a slicing cut almost every single time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
It's a good point.
patience, yeah, patience is important.
Good point. Yeah. And it's like even when I'm doing my videos, I'll be like, I gotta slow down, because I'm trying to get under an hour, because you don't want to have a 2.5 hour video, which is, really what it should take if you're
Uh oh, I think you got muted, Ron. There we go.
oh, sorry. But it's sometimes I'll get going and I'll be like, okay, I gotta say
Uh oh,
we back. I don't
yeah,
know what's going
yeah,
on. It's muting me. But sometimes you get in a hurry, and then
yeah.
before you know it, you've nicked yourself.
I'm like you, Ron. I like to take my time when I'm carving. It's like a Zen thing, It's just really calming, and I don't like to go in a hurry, but for a video, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're always trying to keep it, you want to keep it short as possible for editing purposes and for uploading and all that. But it's like you want to give good detail too. And, but at the same time, it's like, good carving takes time, right?
Yeah.
Good technique. I think a lot of times I don't wear a glove, and I think I'm to the point where I'm confident in my technique that I'm not going to cut myself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's usually when I'm getting sloppy in a hurry or something like that, where that little chip you knew it was going to break off, and there it goes, and bam, right into your finger, or little slice. Or I've cut myself like reaching for my tools while I'm doing a
Yeah.
video.
Hmm.
Like reach over and grab for my knife, and oh shoot.
Yeah. It's sharp.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I'll use some super glue, close them
Hmm.
up, or liquid skin or something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. I try to wear my gloves as often as I can. Every once in a while, I catch myself. I just reach for my utility blade and grab something, and I'm carving away on it, and I think, oh,
yeah,
I probably should put my gloves on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, like I said, I did classes, and at the classes we have to wear a glove. So I don't
Mm,
mind wearing a glove, but I think in the videos it makes it harder to see
mhm.
sometimes.
It's harder to grip.
To grip
It's
and
harder. You don't have the same dexterity because the gloves, if you have a good glove, right,
yeah,
they
yeah,
can be kind of bulky. Yeah, and they
yeah,
do get in the way, like you said, because of the size of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But well, is there anything that you would want to talk about before you go?
Well, I think the thing for me, Ron, is just I hope to encourage beginners. I've done quite a few videos that are they're geared towards beginners, and
Yeah.
that's why every once in a while when I've posted something and it's not a beginner project, and somebody asks me, "Are you going to do a video?" and I think, maybe,
Yeah.
um, but I would encourage folks to watch your channel and the other channels that are out there that give good instruction for people who are starting out. um, get a good knife. There are a number of makers out there
Mhm.
that you can go to, and you don't have to start out with an expensive knife. You can get a good flex cut knife or an OCC tools
Mhm.
knife, and it'll cut just fine.
Yeah.
It really will. But I see a lot of questions posted from beginners on social media. What kind of tools do I need?
Mhm.
Well, the response is, what do you want to carve? Right?
Yeah.
If you
Right.
want to carve spoons, you need different tools for that.
Right.
If you want to carve little figures, then you might just need a carving knife and some simple things, maybe a gouge or a V tool. But yeah, it depends what you want to carve, and I would encourage carvers to think about that first. And there's some folks all they do is spoons and other types
Mhm.
of utensils. Power carving is always, an option for some people. I've seen folks talk about, well, I have weak hands, but I want to carve. What do I do? And I've seen people recommend, power carving to them.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Good point.
it's for me. I don't do much with the Dremel. I use it more as a tool to do other things with it, but
Mhm.
I just like the feeling of the blade, slicing
Yeah.
through the wood, and the power carving is a completely different experience with the noise and the dust and the
Right.
vibration, and it's
Right.
not as zen as what I like.
Yeah. I get you for sure. I'm not much on power carving either, but um, I'm like you. I like the feel that wood. I like the feel going through there and creating something that just started out as a block of wood, and turned into something that you give to somebody and they hang it on their Christmas tree or something like that. And it's fun. It's a great community. And if you haven't started carving yet, pick up a knife and a piece of basswood and carve something today. That's what I always say. So,
There you go. Yeah.
you know, till you give it a try, anybody can do it. I mean, look, I'm probably one of the persons that doubted the most that I could do wood carving when I seen all these guys creating these cowboys and all those things. I'm like, and my wife's like, "Oh, you could do that." I'm like, "I don't know, man. That's tough." I took a couple classes, and the first thing after my instructor gave me a little block of wood and showed me how to make 4 or 5 cuts, and I call them 5 because he calls the triangle cut another cut.
Hmm.
The triangle cut that makes the detail, depth, and shadow and stuff. And after he showed me the 5, and like the third class, he hands me this cowboy wood rough out
Yeah.
and said, "Here you go, and here's what this is supposed to look like." And I was like, "Oh, I'll never be able to do this." But when you have the want to do it, you can do it. It looks hard, but it's not as hard as you would think. And I'm probably the least artistic person when it comes to drawing something or something like that. And once you learn how to make your cuts and you learn the proper ways to use your knife and your tools, it's crazy how when you end up with the piece and you're like, wow, I like
Yeah.
that. That turned out, and it's satisfying and gratifying at the same time.
I see a lot of people, and I'm one of them too. You get done with the carving part, and then I say to myself, "Oh, do I really want to paint this?" I like the way it looks. I really
Yeah,
like. I think,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and I've seen a lot of other people get to that point too. Should I paint it?
yeah,
I usually do wind up painting it, but there's a lot of times I'm just like, oh, leave it alone.
yeah. And I always talking to other carvers, and it's like, when are you actually done with a carving?
Yeah,
Well, once you paint it, you're done with it.
you're pretty much done. Yeah.
Because like I said earlier when we were talking, I'll have 3 or 4 projects up on the shelf, the little cowboys and stuff I do. And I'll pick one up and I'll think, well, I want to put this little bit of detail here on his jacket or on his boots or something like that. And then I'll tinker around with that for a little bit and I'll set him back on the shelf. And it's like, once you
Hmm.
paint it, it's done. And then you think, man, I could have done this or I should have done this. And
Yeah,
so it's really hard to finish a carving.
it can be really, yeah, and there's so many different methods and different ways, and I've experimented with lots of them. I kind of like messing around with different methods, but I
Hmm.
really enjoy Chris Hammock. The work that
Yeah.
he has done, his stuff is amazing, and I did an
Hmm.
online hour with Chris one time, and he's a great guy, a lot of fun to be
Yeah.
with. Yeah, 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 and you do an hour with him online, and you know, you tell him what do you want to carve ahead of time, whether it's faces or hands or whatever it is, and
Hmm.
he'll carve right along and explain his process, and then he'll send you the piece that he carved when he was
Hmm.
carving with you. So yeah,
That's cool. That's
he's a
cool.
great guy, but his stuff is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things I was kind of got in the makings is I would like to create an online community of a club type of thing where we could all sit down and and have a carving class together. Maybe have you do something or one of these other guys that I'm talking to have them come on and do something, but we actually all get together as kind of a community, and carve. And I think that would be cool if we could put together some kind of virtual carving club, you know,
Yeah,
where people could sit together and say, "Hey, Jack's gonna do cartoon eyes tonight" or something, and I think
it,
that would be really beneficial to a lot of, especially beginners,
yeah,
that don't have somebody that can look at their carving and say, "Well, now your eye's a little crooked, but that's okay. Here, do this, and we'll make him look, you know, like it was meant to be there and stuff." Because
yeah.
those are the kind of things I learn when I go around my carving buddies at the carving club. It's like, oh, I got my eye crooked, and they'll be like, well, here, put a little wrinkle right here and a little bag over here under his eye. And next thing you know, it looks like it's supposed to be there. But I would have never learned that if I wouldn't have had an experienced carver that's, done a crooked eye before and fixed it, So that's kind of one of the things I've got in the
Yeah.
workings that I'm trying to put together eventually. And
I think that
it
could
would
be
be beneficial.
really helpful for people who don't have a carving club anywhere near them, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
and they want to learn and they want to be able to interact. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of got that in the workings and I haven't really announced it yet because I'm trying to work out the bugs of everybody being on camera and stuff like that. And I thought, well, even some people don't want to be on camera. You don't have to be, but you can still be there
sure.
as be a part of it and watch others. And then I don't know, I think it would be something good and I'm going to try to get that going here pretty soon. I just wanted to work like how many people I can get online at the same time, and then get other guys like you and Jeff and Jeffro Carves and some of the other guys to come on and do the things they like to do. And I think it'd be beneficial, if we're all carving the same thing. And if you didn't want to carve the same thing, you carve your own project while we're carving and
Yeah,
kind of create that community that I have in a carving club online with my subscribers and your subscribers and everybody that is wanting to be involved in the carving community. So,
sure. And
but
you could wind up with people from all over the globe.
oh, I know. And that's kind of the challenge thing too. Is like, what time do I do it? Where like my friend Jeff over in Sweden that does the QS outdoor carvings. Have you seen his
I have,
channel with the
yeah.
little Vikings?
Yeah.
Me and him's kind of been chatting away, and we kind of figured out a time like, what time can I be with you and you're not in bed, or so we kind of
Yeah.
figured out some time. So yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. And
Well,
um,
you might want to reach out to Sarah, who runs the Whittled Lovelies blog. She's in Italy, and she's got a whole bunch of European carvers that
okay,
follow her blog. So
what was the
yeah,
name again? What was
her
her
first
last
name
name?
is Sarah, Sara, but the name of the blog is called Whittled Lovelies.
Whittled Lovely.
And she's on Instagram and Facebook as well. So
Okay.
she's, there's a community out there for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be cool to bring it all together, and at least give the newer carvers a resource, to reach out and say, "Hey, Jack, what's wrong with this?" Or or Ron, "Hey, how do I get started? What's the best knife?" And even do sharpening classes and things like that. That people can actually see someone. I'm fortunate; I have a carving club and a carving class,
Yeah.
so I'm fortunate. But I realize a lot of people, especially during the COVID thing, we couldn't go anywhere. Nobody was
Yeah.
holding any clubs or classes or anything. So you know, hopefully we're done with that. But you never know what's going to happen. So maybe we can bring a little community together.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, we're almost up to an hour, and I appreciate you coming on. And I'm gonna look forward to being in touch with you in the future, and
Well,
be looking forward to those next videos you got coming up. No
thank
pressure.
you. Yeah. I do most of my carving and the videos, of course, on the weekends because I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
working 5 days a week. But thanks, Ron. It's been a blast. I've
Hey, it
had a
has,
good
man.
time, and I look forward to the next thing we do. Yeah.
Great, great. All right. Friends, if you haven't checked out Jack's channel, go over to Cousin Jack Carves on YouTube, get subscribed, see all the good things he's got going on and what he's got coming up. And until next time, we'll see you on the carving channel. Thanks, guys.